G'day. Exciting day today because it's new camera day. So what I've got is the Canon R5 Mark II. So I've already got an R5. That's the last camera that I bought back in 2020, but the R5 Mark II has got a few things over the R5 which I'm really looking forward to, compared to not only my R5 but my 5D Mark IV and even my old faithful, my Canon 6D. Let's get this open. What have we got in here? So, of course, warranty card, got a power cable, definitely going to need that. A good old Canon camera strap. The one thing that I really don't like about Canon and their straps is that they love to tell the world exactly what it is that you got hanging around your neck. Definitely don't like that personally, but thankfully I never use neck straps anyway because I don't like how they feel, so we can get rid of that. Look, it's a manual. Well, you know what everybody does with the manuals, so get rid of that. Got ourselves a battery. Now, even though the Canon R5 Mark II is using the same form factor as the old Canon R5 original battery, or the prior to that, the 5D Mark IV battery, all of these are interchangeable, but for the R5 Mark II and some of its very specific features, it's a newer model of the LP line. It's high capacity, so it's handy that the batteries are a bit forwards and backwards compatible. I can use the older batteries in the Mark II in a pinch as long as I don't want to rely on those special features. And I can also use the newest batteries in my older cameras. But let me get to that a bit more. I'm not going to chuck this over my shoulder. And this will be the charger. So the charger as well, pretty sure it's it's the same charger as all the others, but interchangeable is the short version of all of that. Alrighty, well, we've got a couple of other little extras before I open what we're all here for. This feels like the cable clip where, yes, you can attach the USB cable into this clip, which then bolts into the side of the camera to help reduce the risk of the cable being torn out of the camera if somebody trips on it or the camera falls or whichever. USB-C to USB-C. I haven't read up on the data specs to know whether if this is a properly high-speed transfer USB-C cable or not. Chuck something up there to correct myself if I need to, but this will go onto the pile of other cables that I never use. Okie doke. There it is. Let's get this out. Let's have a look at the R5 Mark II. There we go. Well, seeing as I've already got an R5, I do feel like I'm home. It's very familiar. I've been using that R5 for the last 5 years, and holding this in my hands, yeah, the button layout, etc., it all feels quite the same. But there are some little changes, so let's grab the old faithful. Here it is. Okay, I do have a few changes straight off the bat. So one, in the R5 original, we have the power switch over on the side here, whereas in the Mark II, you can see it's on the other side of the camera for a start, and we've got a off, lock, on. And the other change that we have is a big dial for photo or video mode. So that's a new one. With the original R5, to go into video mode, you hit mode and then info on the back, which will cycle you into the video side of things. So now we have a dedicated switch for photos and videos. That's interesting. Now, the feeling of it, so this camera has had 5 years worth of wear. It does feel similar, but a tiny bit different, but I'm probably going to put that down to it's been my greasy mitts over quite a while. And if we have a look here at the grip, R5 original and the Mark II, it's looking near enough the same. So on the back between the two, we can see the button layout is pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, yep. There are no changes to the buttons. There's some aesthetic changes. The R5, the buttons are a bit more squared off, whereas on the Mark II, they're rounded over a bit. The thumb joystick, for what it's worth, the knurling in the R5 Mark II just looks a little raised. Either way, I'm not really going to think there's going to be a big difference in that for me, so that's okay. Something that is different, though, in saying all of that, check out this viewfinder. So the viewfinder is obviously larger on the R5 Mark II than the original R5. I believe it's to do with the eye tracking for focus, something that I'm really looking forward to. But we still do have our little diopter on the side to adjust the focus of the viewfinder. On the side here, the ports that are available to us all look exactly the same. Microphone in, headphone out, flash sync connector, USB-C connectors, as well as HDMI out. They're all on that aside. Of course, we are going to have the dual slots, so just like the R5 original with the CF Express and an SD card slot, we do have the same over here in the R5 Mark II. Underneath, so the primary difference is these little vents here. I'm not sure if they're vents or intakes, but either way, it's for the cooling. If you were following the R5, certainly back in the day, there were troubles with it overheating. I personally didn't have issues with it overheating, but for the most part, I was a photographer, not a videographer, whereas they've now built in these vents here, and there is actually a specific battery grip with an inbuilt fan that you can also use to keep it even cooler. I'm not an 8K video shooter, I should be all right. And last to the front of the cameras, no surprise here. Everything is pretty much the same. There is a little microphone port here, which is not visible on the front. I'm going to assume that the microphone is actually over here now. But other than that, to take the lens off, same spot. The little hole for remote triggers is in the same spot. And our depth of field preview is also in the same place. So there you go, very similar in general body-wise, with just some minor differences between the two. So one thing I missed about the top is the Mark II has this little cover for the flash. Let's see if I can get this off without needing the manual. Okay, had to Google it. Apparently we need to get our fingernail behind it here and push forward, but unfortunately my nails are very weak. I can't get this off. Jesus Christ, Canon. That has to be the worst bloody... That's never going back on the camera. And I actually had to Google to try and work it out, and I'm not alone in my feelings. Don't do that again. Anyway, so back to the top. The small difference, the hot shoe now will support extra features in new flashes with Canon compared to the old one. So let's get a battery in. All right, let's have a look. On. Oh, there we go. We have power. So an initial little setup menu here, English for me, and the date and time. Let's get that set. Okay, so that's in there. Now, curiously, I can hear something. Feels like there's a little fan in there. So I don't know if my mic will pick it up. So that's new. So I'm just going to turn this camera off and confirm that that is where I'm hearing the noise. It definitely was. Never noticed it with this, but hey, let's find out. I don't think there's anything there. It's funny, but if I turn this on, definitely a noise. This does have a faint noise as well. I've never noticed that in all of my years. So it's definitely a little louder in this. I wouldn't think it's the IBIS working, but hey, I'm not sure. I'll do a little Google and throw something up here to explain it. There you go. It's funny that whatever that noise is, I don't know if it's distracting, but it's noticeable. It's definitely there. As always, if you're finding this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button down there. And any clarifying questions, or hey, maybe you need to flame me on some inaccuracies, chuck them down in the comments below. I'd love to see them. So let's get a lens hooked up. I've just got a RF 35mm here, nothing special. But one of the reasons why I got this camera is that the super high shutter speed that we're able to get out of the full electronic shutter. So if I pop this one off, that's disappointing that while the camera is on, the sensor is still exposed. I don't understand why Canon have got it so that when the camera is on and you go to swap lenses, the shutter doesn't close down over the sensor to protect it. Anyway, so we'll get the 35mm on. Where's that little dot? Oh, isn't it cute? What I'm after is the shutter speed. So in the full electronic shutter, it's supposed to do 30 frames a second. So let's check that out, hey? Here we go. And shutter speed, high speed, continuous. And let's have a look. The shutter itself. There we go, shutter mode, electronic. So that's full electronic versus electronic first curtain. So let's just go to electronic first curtain to begin with, and let's just fire off a burst. That's not too bad, that's 12 frames a second. So let's now change it to the full electronic shutter. Say okay to that. Oh, now that's 30 frames a second. Man, you can fill a card with that pretty quick. Have another little listen to the electronic first. So 12 frames per second, typically for what I do when I need that, is usually with weddings or events, but knowing that I've got the 30 frames a second in full electronic shutter up my sleeve, that's going to be really handy. So how about this viewfinder then? Let me have a look. I mean, it's big. Big, feels very clear. Let's have a look. Do I have enough batteries left? Well, let's get the R5 Mark II battery and throw it into my R5 Mark I. Just going to attach my 24 to 70 EF lens via the EF to RF adapter. All right, through the viewfinder. The experience, let's grab this one. So they feel samey same. I'm not sure if the viewfinder in the Mark II is higher pixels or not, but certainly from this very scientific test that I'm doing at the moment, but I am seeing the 35mm of the lens being shown on here. I wonder if it'll show me the focal length if I put this on. Oh, so that is very nice. The viewfinder is showing me the focal length as I zoom in and out, even with an EF lens. It's not an RF lens, it's using the adapter. Not mission critical, but now that I see it, I like that I have it. So that's super useful. The other thing I'm looking forward to using with the R5 Mark II is the pre-capture functionality. You might have seen my video from early in 2025 where I was capturing some lightning using an exposure trigger. Just give that a little, oh my gosh. We saw that on there. Now, a few people in the comments were actually saying that their cameras had pre-capture, much like your mobile phone. If you've ever used that live mode where the phone is continuously shooting for a little bit before you hit the button and then it'll shoot for a little bit after and you've got that buffer. Well, the R5 Mark II now has that as well. So if some daytime storms do come along, I'm really going to be keen to check that out. Now, something that I had to read and reread quite a bit is grip compatibility. So, of course, the R5 Mark II, there's a new grip for it over and above the one that came out with the R5. And it's not cheap. And I've already got a grip for my R5 original. They're somewhat compatible. It's not heavily advertised, but if we get the two batteries, put them in our little cradle. There we go, following functions may be restricted, yada, 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 but it works. You can see that the high-speed shooting is flashing, so that is telling me it's not going to be shooting at full capacity, and we can actually check that. That's still fast. All right, it was flashing with first electronic shutter. So it's curious there, but we're only 12 frames a second. Might be a little slower. I'll chuck something up there for clarification what it is. But usually when something is flashing on the back of the camera, it's telling you that you've hit some kind of limit and you're not going to get the full benefit or full exposure or whatever it is. But the point is, the grip works. If you're watching this video, maybe as a Canon DSLR full frame user, should you make the jump or not? I can tell you, if we go back in time to my 5D Mark IV, it was the best move going from the 5D Mark IV to the R5. The Mark IV is a very capable camera, make no mistake. It's prosumer level in that it's definitely not a beginner consumer camera. There are scores of professional photographers all over the world using 5D Mark IV cameras. When I upgraded to the R5, it was a massive transition for me. It's one of those things that some of the benefits of mirrorless, for example, being able to see the picture as it's going to look when you take it versus with a DSLR, you need to shoot and then review, shoot and review. With your mirrorless, you're seeing it live through the viewfinder, exactly how it's going to appear when you press the button. And the eye tracking as well, especially for weddings, just fantastic. So the change from this to this was significant for me and I never regretted it, not once. Going up to the R5 Mark II, I'm not expecting the night and day that I experienced over here, but certainly it has been such a while since I bought a new camera. I am looking forward to these additional features that are in the R5 Mark II, as well as the tax deduction that comes at the end of the year. And look, where we're talking about the benefits of the R5 Mark II over the original R5, maybe you're thinking about making the leap up into the full frame mirrorless. By going the R5, you're going to save a decent chunk of change, and I've already made it clear just how capable this camera is. So if you are somebody that doesn't need the latest and would rather save a bit of money and buy yourself a really nice lens to go with your R5 body, this is no slouch. This is going to be a great camera. And look, I can't talk about my history with the R5, the 5D Mark IV, and my original camera from back in the day, in 2014, my Canon 6D. I'll never sell this. This was my first big boy camera, and I got this camera along, funnily enough, with the 24-70 f2.8 lens that you see here. Yeah, look, in the Canon ecosystem of full-frame cameras, I've been really happy. As far as the progression along the cameras, the 6D to the 5D Mark IV, big upgrade. It's much faster, the dual slots, the focus points. I mean, this has only got like 9 of them, whereas this has hundreds to thousands. And it doesn't even have a touchscreen, so you need to use buttons and dials like a heathen. Whereas the touchscreen on the 5D Mark IV was great, but it's not a flip-out screen, which when I went to the R5, that came along. All of these things I never missed when I didn't have them, but after I did have them for a while, well, you can take it away out of my cold, dead fingers. Is this a reason for you to rush out and start upgrading all of your gear? Hey, if you want to, I'm a big believer in if you're okay with spending the money, then buy whatever the hell you want. Just make sure that your buying decisions are informed, and if this video has helped you out making the decision one way or the other to Mark II, R5, stay with what you got, that's fine. But I hope you're out there shooting something awesome.